Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Analyze Scripts. We are thrilled that you are joining us today on this lovely Monday morning or whenever you're
Mhm,
listening.
mhm,
We are excited to cover kind of like a rom-com from
mhm.
Netflix, a family affair with some amazing actors, right? So we
Oh,
have
yeah.
Zac Efron, Nicole Kidman, Joey King. I was really
Kathy Bates.
impressed. Kathy Bates was a surprise. Love her.
Mhm.
She's usually like scary, right, in American Horror Story,
Yeah,
but
I
it was
know.
nice. She was like the grandmama.
Oh,
Yeah. What do you think? Where do you wanna start?
oh my gosh. Well, I wanna start by saying that at first, in the first, like, 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, "Ugh, I don't wanna watch this. Like, I don't know. This sucks," but then by the end, I loved it.
Mhm.
So if you were like me, give it another go.
Mm.
Um, but I think, like, Zac Efron's character, Chris Cole, is, like, really disgusting at the beginning, and rightfully so, and we'll get all into it. And then but by the end, I, like, really loved it, and it was
Mhm.
so sweet and cute, but also, like, moving. I
Yeah.
don't know, I feel like I really, really enjoyed watching it. I was surprised, though.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, I think it could have taken a much, kind of, like, flatter turn with it just, like, the
Yeah,
characters not being developed, and I
right.
think, like, the big takeaway that I took from the movie was that, people can change, like, when
Mhm.
they're challenged or with the right circumstances or with the right support.
Yeah,
But then when we're just in our kind of like pigeonholes, we're just kind of like doing what we do, and our blinders are on. And I feel like everyone's
yeah,
blinders were on at the beginning of the movie, and then everyone's blinders were off at the end.
right, in a way that was like, you know, they're all changing and evolving, and they all wanted to.
Mhm.
And maybe they didn't realize they wanted to at first, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
I don't know, like, to try to bring it back to mental health, like, I feel like I see that a lot in my work, maybe when people are venting about other people in their lives who aren't interested in changing
Mhm.
or have any insight or are taking any action themselves, right? That, like, you really can't change or
Right.
evolve or grow or learn new skills without that interest, like, that is the most important first step.
Mhm.
And at first I was like, I don't see how Chris Cole's, like, gonna get there, but then he did.
Yeah.
And I really was surprised that there were so
Mhm.
many layers to him. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, Zac Efron, I just love him. I want him to win an Oscar for Iron Claw. I know that
I
he's not, but, like and I don't think he's
I
gonna
know.
win for this movie, but he's
He
just so
should have for
wonderful.
Iron Claw. Again, that's another plug, like, go see Iron Claw, but wait till you're in a mood where you, like, really need a good cry,
Yeah.
or when you don't have to, like, go be happy the next day because you
Mhm.
will feel depressed. And then listen to our episode with the Kick Shrink from a
Yeah,
couple a couple
yeah,
months back.
yeah, to kind of bring it back. They played it on the plane, just, like, funnily enough, I was on JetBlue and they
Whoa,
had
that's, like,
Iron Claw.
not a plain
Yeah.
movie.
Well, I was, like, looking around, is anyone crying right now? Because if they are, then they're watching Iron Claw.
They're watching Iron Claw. Yeah, seriously. Oh my god.
So, Chris Cole is, like, a stereotypical celebrity, right? Like, he's, like,
Douchebag.
very, entitled,
Narcissistic.
narcissistic, like, kind of treats people as objects, and I was thinking very similarly to our episodes on Succession with, like,
Yes.
he doesn't feel, though, like a true, like, narcissist if he was kind of taken out of his
Mhm.
environment. It's, like, that kind of created narcissist if you're really wealthy or really, famous.
Right, right.
They'll do things for you, and then you just kind of get used to that,
A
but
lot of yes people. Yeah.
mhm, yeah, for,
Mhm.
like, crazy things, right? Like, I don't like blue M&Ms, like, it's just,
Oh my
like, it
gosh.
gets to that
But then it's
level.
like we see, like, Rihanna's what is that thing called when you're, like,
Oh,
performing and you get, like, snacks?
mm,
What's that? That list, whatever
yeah,
it is.
yep,
We see that and people, like, request that stuff and then, like,
yeah,
people will do it for them,
mhm.
right? Oh my
Did
gosh,
you
can you
know that you
imagine?
have to pay for that? So,
Who? The
not you, but, like well, when we tour, us, but
Yeah.
they, like, have to pay. So I was listening to this,
Oh.
podcast, it's kind of a little controversial, but Tana Mojo, like, her canceled podcast,
Oh, I
and
don't know who that is.
she was torn.
Too
She's,
old?
like, a little younger than me, she's just, like, she was, like, a hot mess, and now she's, like, kind of has have her stuff together, but
Okay.
she talks a lot about trauma and mental health. She's, like, has terrible
Mm.
relationship with her parents. So, like, there's a lot there,
Right.
but she toured, her and Brooke Schofield toured, and they were like, "Oh, it's a rider." And they were like, "Oh,
Writer,
yeah,
that's
we
it.
wanted to put, all this stuff like Dom Perignon and whatever on our
Yeah.
rider." And then they're like, "Oh, but then, like, you get the bill for it. Like, you're charged."
I
And
don't
they were
know.
like,
Does
"Oh, I
does
thought it was
does
free."
Beyoncé get the bill? Like, maybe if you're I don't know,
That's a
right?
good
Like,
question. I don't think Beyoncé probably does, 'cause I don't think she gets, like, any bills, but
but, like, I think, like,
yeah.
if you're like, if we were to go on a tour, like, yes,
Yeah,
they
they're
would
like,
not be
"Okay,
like,
pay
"Here."
for your Spindrift."
Exactly, like, "Here, yeah, you gotta pay for your own lemon spindrift," but, I think, like, Taylor Swift,
Mhm.
Beyoncé, the Beatles, like, I feel like when you get to that level, Chris Cole, for example, you just, like, get free
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah,
Right? Because they want you to come back.
right.
You're bringing so much money in, to their
Mm.
stadium or wherever you're performing. I don't know though, like, if Beyoncé wants to chime in, send us a
Yeah, let us
DM.
know. Let us
Let
know,
us
that would
know, like, do you have to pay for your own rider? Does
Mhm.
anyone have any, like, intel? Um, but yeah, I mean, he's totally like a Hollywood douchebag. And
Mhm.
I felt like I don't think of Zac Efron for real as a Hollywood douchebag. So it was kind of like I bet he
I
had
know.
fun really
Yeah.
leaning into that. Again, I have no knowledge either way of what he's really like, but it was like kind of fun to see him lean into it.
Mhm.
And I just really wonder, like, how far does the Hollywood douchebaggery go? Like, is it this extreme? I bet it is,
I think so.
Portia.
I think it's probably even worse, like
Can you even imagine? Like, I go and order, like, a latte, and they do it wrong, and I still, like, drink it, like, I'm still working on,
well,
like you know what I mean? Like, it's
yes.
just such a different end of the spectrum.
Mhm. And I think it's also though just like not like a lot of people can also can be jerks with no money, but like I just
True.
can't imagine being rude about things like that unless then you're rude back. Like if I'm like, "Oh, hey, like I don't think this is mine." And then they're like, "Oh, sorry, no problem." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem at all." Like then I'm like falling over
Yeah.
myself to be like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, don't worry, it's
But
okay. Actually,
then
I'll drink it, it's great. It's
but then
actually
if
how did
they're
you know
like
this is what I
yeah,
wanted?
yeah. But then if they're, like, rude back, then, like, I'm gonna be a little bit more direct, ideally,
Mhm.
sometimes I'm still not, but, like, I think
Mhm.
with celebrities and with Chris, like, it just so, I don't backing up a little bit, what do you think of his, kind of, like, self-sabotaging or just, like,
Yes,
running away from the
100%.
romantic relationships? What did you get
Yes.
from that?
Well, so at first we think he's just a douchebag, right?
Mhm,
Who's, like, breaking up with his girlfriend who's, like, stereotypically gorgeous,
mhm.
huge boobs, like, right in your face, at a fancy dinner, thinks he's gonna, like, propose with the red box. I'm like, "That's just cruel."
I know.
Like, that is an extra layer of cruelty when then it's earrings. I
Totally.
did like that she took them. I
Yeah, like
was like, "Okay, good for
yeah.
you," but you can tell, like, this is what he does. And
Mhm.
then I was like, "Is that what Leonardo DiCaprio does?"
I think so.
Like,
Um,
it kinda seems like it from the outside,
yeah.
but whatever, we don't have to we're not gonna analyze real people here. But, so then you just think he's like a Peter Pan Hollywood douchebag,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But then once we hear his story of significant loss and death and abandonment, then it makes sense
Mhm.
why it feels scary for him to attach and grow close to someone and why he keeps leaving before he can really get there, right? It's all like in
Yeah,
an unconscious effort not to get hurt.
right.
And so sometimes it's, he does it willingly and kind of consciously on purpose, like with the earring thing. Other times I think he gets in his own way,
Mhm. No,
like with
totally.
his assistant,
Yes. Yep.
Sarah.
'Cause it seems like he really relies on her for so much. Not just, errands, but, like, running kind of just, like, managing his life. It's like this person that's there that works for him, which I think, again, is part of his, like, defense
Yes.
mechanism of, like,
Yes.
"I'm paying you, so you
Mhm.
can't, like, hurt me. You can't, like,
I have
technically
power
leave."
over you.
Exactly.
And she said that, like, he would, like, fire her,
Mm.
make her write apology letters to
That
the
was kind of
something, like, all this,
like
like, crazy
yeah.
things. And it's like and again, I think that's all in that, like,
Mhm.
she's the closest person to him, which is really sad, and I
Yeah.
do think, like, that is really sad that Taylor Swift can't, like, go to Whole Foods or Taco Bell or anything, that is
Mhm.
sad. Um, but so he is really close to her, but then that's, like, scary for him. So like, sabotages or he's mean to her to, like, put her in her place or,
Right.
keep the power or push her away or see how much she can take before she
Mhm.
leaves or all of that, right? Like, we
Right.
really see that a lot, and then I'm like, "Why is Zara putting up with it?"
Right.
Right? It goes both ways,
Mhm.
the relationship.
Yeah. And it seems like eventually she kind of has enough, which maybe is,
Mhm.
a confluence of events with her just, like, frustration with, like, knowing that she wasn't getting he wasn't, kind of doing his end of what he promised
Right,
her.
right.
And then I think also just, like, the transition time, like, it seems like she is kind of fresh out of college, maybe, like, 2 years out, she's living at home,
Mhm,
her mom is super successful, her dad died,
mhm,
like, and
mhm,
just that feeling like I'm not doing enough, I'm not where I should be, I hear a lot with that, really
mhm.
in any age group, but especially that time, there's
It's
so
a
much
hard
comparison.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're, like, kind of I mean, she was privileged enough to have, like, a beautiful home, a supportive mom, like, like, it's pretty
Mhm.
stable family life, not like, it doesn't seem like she was under financial
Right.
stress to, like, move out or anything like that, but still feels, like, really lost, and in her
Mhm.
own way, then she's quite, quote, unquote, "narcissistic."
Yeah.
Not, like, I think in a clinical way, I think in just, like, a self-absorbed
Mhm.
way, where we
Right.
really see, like, she can't see beyond herself, like, when her friend is, like, being such a good friend to her and also, like, not getting back what she
Mhm.
needs, which is, like, exactly the parallel between her and
Right.
Chris,
Right.
right?
I thought
D
I didn't like Zara, like, for most of the movie.
Same.
Um, she just was like,
Annoying, like, kind of bratty,
'cause you're also
you
so
know?
privileged where it's like
Right.
you have all of these connections. Your mom has literally said like, "Oh, like, don't worry about it," or "You could take time off," or "Why are you putting this much pressure on yourself?" And I think it's great that you still have the desire to work, I mean, like,
And
that's
a drive,
also
yeah.
a good thing, but just the self-absorbed and, like, the not like, putting like, not thinking about literally anyone else, and I thought, when the friend kind of called her out on it, speaks to, I think, the depth of the relationship that you believe that you can, say something like
Mhm.
that, and,
True,
it
true.
didn't land well immediately, of course, I think that's hard to hear, but the fact that Zara could hear it, think about it, digest it, and then repair,
Come
like,
back.
you
Yes.
know, means that you do have, skills and that you're not, a
That you're
narcissist to the
not
core.
right, that you don't have
Mhm.
narcissistic personality disorder,
Right.
right? Like, I wouldn't, diagnose Zara with that. I think it was just she's very self-absorbed, um, and for a lot of reasons,
Mhm.
but even, like but I thought, like, it was just a really beautiful in the movie, like, overall, how they really explored that through the lens of all the different characters,
Right.
right? Like, we see it with Zara being frustrated with Chris. Then we
Mhm.
see Zara's friend being frustrated with her. Then we see Zara's mom really struggling with, like, "Okay, can I lean into what I want
Right.
now, or should I not because of my daughter?" And I thought, like, the mother-daughter relationship and the way they depicted it was actually, like, really moving, and I was not
Mhm.
expecting that. And
Right.
then we even saw it with Nicole Kidman's character Brooke and Kathy Bates's
Mhm.
character Layla, who was Brooke's husband's
Mhm.
mom,
Yeah.
right? So it was like Brooke's mother-in-law, but they had
Mhm.
such a beautiful relationship, right?
Right.
I don't
Right.
know, it's just really interesting, a really beautiful way they
Mhm.
explored that.
And, the moment between Layla and Zara, where Layla was, like, very
Yes.
gently in, like, a very appropriate, like, kind of grandmotherly way, explaining that, like, her mom's a person too, and, like,
Yeah,
"Yes, this is hard, but, like, what do you think? We can do it, like, let's give it a try." Like, I think was just really beautiful, showing, like, kind of the different generations,
yeah,
involvement
right,
and how it can be supportive, and, like, Zara could not hear that from her mom in that moment, but
right.
she could from her grandmother.
Right, because you can imagine they've had years,
Mhm.
of building a stable foundation, and her grandma also kind of, like, called her out
Yeah.
in a, like, playful, humorous,
Mhm.
gentle way, but was like, "Girl, you gotta, like, get out
Yeah.
of the way. Like,
Mhm.
get out of your own head, like, why are you doing this?" And
Right.
but in a way where Zara could hear it, right? And I think
Yeah.
it's, like, just like her friend did, in a, like, angrier kinda
Mhm.
way, different way, but Zara could hear that both times, and again, I think that is more evidence why she is not a
Right.
narcissist. She is just a developing human
Yes.
who's trying to find her way,
Mhm.
and privileged, and a bit entitled, and again, it's like, well, why wouldn't you be, I guess, in a situation like that?
Mhm.
But not to the point where it's, like, icky. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
like, annoying at times, but it felt like developmentally appropriate, I guess I would
Mhm.
is how I'm trying to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I think the one part that was just, like, really irritating to me was when she was just, like, really kind of, like, demanding being, like, a producer and named, and I was like, "You're literally 23," and, like, I'm kind
Yeah.
of making that up, but, like, you were 20, 21, 22, 23. You're not even in your mid-20s and you feel like you are owed,
Entitled, right.
like, to be named in a movie? Like, that just doesn't happen unless you are, like, a nepo baby or you have all these
Which she kind of
connections.
is. Yeah, she is,
Exactly.
like, in a different way, but yeah,
Mhm.
right, and so, like, again, like, exploring that entitlement and seeing that, like, Chris and Zara actually are kinda similar,
Yeah.
and, that's hard for them to sort of, like, look at, and I think
Mhm.
it was maybe that is why it became easier for her to believe that Chris could evolve and change, right? That she was seeing these new sides to
Mhm.
him, but for so long, she just wrote him off, and again, it's like, rightfully so, like, she
Right.
knows him really well, she loves her mom and doesn't want her
Mhm.
mom to get hurt,
Right.
and she's like, yeah, who wouldn't feel like that?
Yeah. And especially, like, the trigger, right, like, was her seeing the earrings for the
Yes.
mom, and, yeah, like, I felt like that, her being super protective, but, like, that all felt very appropriate, like, for her
Yeah.
age, for the relationship. I thought it was even pretty mature at times.
That she,
Um,
like, held on to it for so
yeah.
long until she saw something that was like, "Okay, this is a hard
Right.
no." Yeah,
Right.
I totally agree.
And that I thought was, like, really beautiful. I mean, I also just think I can't believe, like, Nicole Kidman it's just funny, like, Nicole Kidman is just to me like an actor, like,
I
she
know.
is a
Yes, she
movie
is.
star,
She is, yeah.
and she was in this movie, like, in this kind of, like, lovely, silly, fun, beautiful, like, rom-com, and I was just like, "That's
Yeah.
amazing," and, like, how fun for Nicole Kidman, I would imagine. I know
To,
she's,
like,
like,
make out with
happily
Zac
married. I
Efron?
know.
Hello? I mean, that's, like, why we're all watching is to see them all, like, make out,
Mhm.
right? That's why we went to Iron Claw.
Yeah.
We thought it was just gonna be Zac Efron wrestling in tidy whities, and it was, and so much more.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like this movie.
Yeah,
But,
so that
I
was
left feeling,
awesome.
like, happy and not
Mhm.
depressed.
Exactly, and, like, speaking to as well and, like, obviously, Nicole Kidman is, like, a stunningly beautiful woman, but, like, she's also, like, in her middle age. She's a mom, like, she's a partner, so
Yeah.
I think I loved that she was given, like, this glamorous, like, hot, like, the hot mom role and not
Mhm.
like, it wasn't given to, like, a 25-year-old playing a hot mom role,
Yeah.
and
But
just,
she
like
also wasn't, like, frumpy mom. Like, she got
exactly.
to be like, she got to have, like, a Nancy
Mhm.
Meyers-esque house, beautiful home, illustrious career, well regarded, and have her privacy,
Mhm.
and have a good relationship with her daughter.
Mhm.
She lost her husband. I was surprised when we learned about, like, all the backstory there. Like, it's just like with all these characters, we
Yeah.
learned more and more that really gave you a deeper understanding of them. Like you're saying that, like, I think if we hadn't, it totally could have felt really superficial and like a
Mhm.
throwaway. But learning all of that was so moving and how each of them at different times is like holding on to something,
Right.
like something painful or deeply emotional out of love and like wanting to protect
Mhm.
someone. And I thought, like, that was really beautiful, and then when they all sort of started to learn, like, when it's okay to put that down or
Yeah.
let it go or, like, I'm gonna, like, cry or, like, rely on someone else to help you through
Mhm.
it, it's, like,
Right.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, what we all want,
Mhm. Yeah, and I
right?
think it took someone who was so different for Chris,
Mhm.
like, it was a little bit of an older woman, who was
Mhm.
so deeply rooted and secure in some ways in herself, she has her own
Mhm.
career, this own identity that I think he could then like, after
Be
being nervous at
vulnerable.
first, but, like, feel safe enough to be
Yeah.
himself or to, like, trust her a little bit more with his feelings and vulnerability than he could, like, the people
Mhm.
his own age or the people that he had met, like, kind of on the dating scene in Hollywood, which I think
Yeah,
also, like, makes
duh.
a lot of sense, and, like,
Yeah.
that's when some of these traits, even if they're, you know, kind of like we don't need them anymore, it's like it was keeping him safe, I'm sure, like, from people who
Yeah.
were gonna use him.
100%,
Mhm.
right, and it does remind me a lot of what we talked about, like, with Succession and other things is, like, yeah, sometimes the environment you're in, like, breeds or even, like, demands these traits to survive,
Right.
and maybe surviving is too strong of a word with, like, Chris and his million bazillion dollar palace, but, like, he's trying to survive in other ways, and he's
Mhm.
coping with significant grief and loss, like, from his childhood, but then also the grief and loss of, like, not being able to, like, move about the world in a
Right.
normal way or have, like, genuine, authentic relationships. Like, I feel like we've talked about this with Taylor Swift, like, how do you ever, like, form a friendship and
Mm.
not be suspicious that they just, like, want something from you or
Yeah.
are gonna use you or exploit you, right? Like, that's gotta
Mhm.
be, like, a really lonely place to be in.
Yeah.
So then, like, why wouldn't he, find comfort,
Mhm.
with a woman like this? And again, it was like this May December romance was not icky in the way the one
Right.
we talked about in the May December movie was.
Right. Right, with the
I think
age
they
gap.
Yeah, like, I think they were each, like,
Mm.
offering something the other one really needed.
Right. They all had their, frontal lobes developed in the romantic relationship,
Yep,
Zara did
that
not
they were
yet, but
but they were both consenting
mhm.
adults, so that's
Right.
important,
Right.
and they really thought about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought too it was nice to see the kind of inner conflict from Brooke, the mom, with, like,
Mm.
you know, who am I and what do I need being a mother? And, like, what else is my
Yeah.
identity and role as, like, someone with a sex drive, someone with, a romance needs, someone with,
Mhm.
as a, um, in her career even, and then a mom. It's like I
Right.
think that it did a good job too of just, like, having it that inner conflict kind of shown that I think a lot of
Yeah.
parents can, struggle with, I'm
Totally.
sure,
Totally.
in just different roles that we have and different hats that we
Right.
wear.
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally, and I think, like, also it did nicely explore, like, how do you navigate that, especially when there's divorce or death and
Mhm.
you still have young children you're raising. I think that's a very tricky path to
Yeah.
walk, and I don't think there's, like, one right answer, but it seems like Brooke really put her daughter totally first and her
Mhm.
career, but she had said, like, she hadn't dated, she hadn't been involved with anyone. I didn't see any of her friends. I was like, "Where are her
Yeah.
friends? Does she
Yeah.
have friends?"
Mhm.
It seemed like she really leaned into her mother-in-law. I loved the scene when, like, um, Brooke called her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law was, like, on a date
Yeah.
with an older gentleman.
Mhm.
I just thought that was cute.
Yeah.
But it's just like, navigate and I also really love seeing, like, a special, wonderful holiday gathering with just a very small family
Mhm.
and that they all felt like it was enough.
Right.
I loved that, you
Yeah.
know?
I think we don't see that a lot in movies. It's usually this huge
No.
like, the happily ever after or the ending chunk is like, "And the whole community bands together," which is
Yes.
great, but
And you don't need all that all the
right.
time, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. I really loved that, like, that's their holiday and it's wonderful. And again, it's, like, exactly what someone like Chris would love.
Mhm. Yeah. To be feel, like, included and in a real secure way that's not because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
sure, even if thinking about, like I'm sure he was invited to so many holiday parties or,
I'm
like,
sure. He
events that
Yeah, he
don't
gets that,
feel
like
good.
he gets that gingerbread house the Kardashians
Mhm.
send out, like,
Yeah.
he gets one.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it doesn't feel authentic and real and, like, warm, like, there was just, like, warmth in this
Right.
whole movie, and I just loved all their houses. Not
Mhm.
really his mansion house, but I
A
loved
little
her
cold.
houses. Yeah, and I loved wherever they went for the holidays, I just loved that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. It spoke to
yeah.
people's rooms. Like, I think, something that can be unrelated, it also at times can be related, but it's like people's homes, I think, say so much about them. Sometimes it's, like, in a clinical way, sometimes it's just, like, more style, but,
Yeah.
and his being so bare and, like,
Yeah,
cold and hard was, like,
but
the
full of
walls around
expensive,
him.
shiny things.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then her
Exactly.
house, Zara and Brooke's house being, like, warm and layers and, like, felt like a home,
Cozy.
cozy,
Yeah.
welcoming, and I think, both had, like, gates, but still even that, like, it just I
Mhm.
think it was, like, a good and typically is, in my, opinion, kind of a good characterization of, like, what's going on in people's lives,
Mm. Oh
is, like,
gosh.
how their
I
homes
wonder
look.
yeah. You don't wanna know what mine says.
I think it says you have kids and, like, right
It's just a
now
mess.
and I don't think it's a mess, and let's say this, like, it's not it's not dirty, it's not gross, it's nothing, it's like you have kids and it's, like, fun chaos, like, there's, like,
Lived in,
toys,
right. It's lived
and it's,
in.
like,
Yeah,
you hear the pitter-patter of dogs, like, it's just, like, that's
yeah.
what it is, it's, like, fun and cute and special and,
Well,
like,
thanks,
lived in.
Portia.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. So, I
I
think it's
think
just so fascinating. Mhm.
I feel like yours is, like, very pretty, and, like, I love that table, I always tell you, and, like, your, like, calm decorations, and it's very clean and quiet, and I love
Well,
it. And pets. I love all the
yeah,
pets.
yeah, a lot of pet fur if you look
Yeah,
closely.
I love it.
And all the
All right, well,
colors.
as we wrap up, the last thing I
Mhm.
wanted to get your opinion on was, how much did you love him getting to go to the grocery store?
Oh,
And then I was, like, a little sad at the end when, like, really it was all, like, they had to
me
hire
too.
everyone.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is a great, like,
Reality check.
exposure." Yeah, that
Yeah.
he can go, and then I was like, "Oh, like, he
Oh, wait, no, he
can't.
can't.
Never mind."
But how
Um,
sweet that,
yeah.
like, she gave him that.
Mhm.
It was, like, so excited to look at all the
Yeah.
cereal, and I'm like, "Gosh, those are the normal everyday things that,
Mhm.
like, big fancy celebrities, like, can't do." Like, that
Right,
would feel like you can't just go walk around HomeGoods
right.
and, load up your cart and then leave it and not get a thing. Like, you can't
Yeah,
do
like,
that.
and, like, run out and, like, "Oh, we need this one ingredient," like, when it's literally, like, faster or easier to get it yourself and, like, like, have it delivered, like, if you could just, like, run around the block,
Right,
especially if you're living in the city, like, I think it's always so fascinating and sad that, like, you can't just do that, and, like,
right.
it's, like, a safety thing.
You can never
Um,
just, like, go outside without a bra on,
right.
you know,
Yeah,
literally.
unless you want it on
So,
the
anyway,
front page.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Well,
we'll
if
leave it there. Everyone
yeah,
think about that.
yeah.
Really think about that. How would you feel?
Mhm.
Not good,
No,
maybe?
but cute movie, like,
It was very cute.
recommend. It's
I
like a
really
little
liked it.
rom-com. Netflix does a good job at that, and, this is something that we can talk about offline, but Nicole Kidman is also getting so much press for, The Perfect, Couple. It's like the Ellen Hildebrand book. It's gonna be a
Ooh.
miniseries on Netflix, and it's like a murder, family dynamics.
Ooh.
I've read the book, it's so good, and it's a
Is that out
season
yet or
and a half.
no?
No, it's coming out in September, so
Okay, well,
yeah.
if our audience wants to chime in and
Mhm.
let us know, do you wanna hear us talk about it? Do you wanna watch it together? Like, we really wanna cover stuff that you all are interested in,
Mhm.
that you wanna hear our, really hot takes about. So let us know. Send us an email or find
Yep.
us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Analyze Scripts Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.